What was it like seeing your first Devil Walker? How did you react when facing off against a hive ogre? What was it like the first time you entered the Vault of Glass? I'm your host, Sir Double D, and welcome to the first episode of Dungeon Crawler, a series in which we will be going through each of Destiny's dungeons, or strikes if you will, and take a look at their designs in terms of gameplay and art, explore tidbits of lore surrounding each dungeon's bosses, and present them in more of a thematic style. Today, on our inaugural episode, we will be taking a look at one of Destiny's most iconic dungeons, the Devils Lair. But first, let me give a quick rundown of what exactly Destiny is for the uninformed. For those of you who don't know, Destiny is a first-person, shared world shooter with light role-playing game elements. In Destiny, you take control of a guardian, a wielder of light, and a defender of the last safe city on Earth. You can choose up to 3 races and 3 classes to pick, as well as a myriad of customization options. Those classes include the Hunter, an agile class which has access to throwing knives and their accurate but also powerful golden gun. The Warlock, a class which focuses on using the power of space magic and their Nova Bomb to obliterate foes who decide to get too close. And last but not least, the Titan class, an unstoppable force that rushes through into the battlefield, punching foes and delivering sweet justice with their Fist of Havoc. Each of these classes have way more abilities than just these few, but we're just going to focus on the 3 primary class abilities for now. As for the story, the game takes place many years into the future after an extinction-wide event known as the Collapse is started by an unknown force called the Darkness, which almost wipes out all of humanity. Luckily for us, an ancient alien entity known as the Traveler places itself above the last bastion of humanity on Earth, and in its final waking moments, the Traveler pushes back the darkness and releases the ghosts, tiny little flying robots that go out and resurrect fallen heroes to become guardians. It's up to the Guardians to defend the last city against agents of the darkness, such as the Fallen, a once noble race now known only to be scavengers and pirates. The Hive, an ancient species that deals in dark magic and death experiments. The Cabal, a warmongering race that will literally blow up planets and moons just for getting in their way. The Vex, a robotic hive mind race that can teleport between space and time, as well as a whole slew of big bads and a few separate factions here and there. But enough of that. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. Our mission begins with a transmission from Commander Zavala, a guardian and leader of the Vanguard. The Vanguard are the people who are in charge of what missions Guardians take and what battles they fight. After successfully finding an NLS drive for your ship, learning of the Hive's presence on Earth, and activating an array for Rasputin, an ancient artificial intelligence defense system, you're tasked with hunting down a servitor, Sepix Prime, giving strength to a fallen house located in old Russia known only as the House of Devils. Commander Zavala informs you that until you deal with Sepix, the Fallen will continue to plan their assaults and attacks against the last city. You cannot let that happen. Your fire team is dropped into the rocket yard of the Cosmodrome and are tasked with pushing through heavy resistance of 2 large groups of Hive and Fallen, duking it out with each other. It's up to your fire team if you want to engage the enemy or try and slip past through unscathed. Either way, you end up in the refinery. Due to the nature of Destiny as an ever-evolving game, it has changed over time with updates and DLCs that have added new places and new enemies to fight. This includes the Taken, another enemy race that captures other races and corrupts and conscripts them into their dark army. From time to time in this current version of Destiny, you'll happen to cross paths with them as they seek to invade and destroy the current overworld of each planet. When Destiny launched in 2014, the Taken were not in the base game at the time, so seeing them fight in an area of the story where they haven't been properly introduced is unique to current-day Destiny, as well as being a little bit jarring. After pushing into the refinery, you uncover more resistance in another fight between the Hive and the Fallen. You start to get the sense that this is a territorial dispute. Moving into the next area, you notice a Hive Seeder, a ship used to colonize a world with Hive life forms. Your suspicions were correct, and it looks as though you aren't the only ones trying to force the Fallen out of their holes. As you make it around the next corner, the fighting between the 2 factions has erupted into an all-out skirmish, and you begin to enter the first encounter in the dungeon. After a small fight, you clear out the former resistance and your ghost mentions that the current way out of the refinery is sealed by a set of mesh lasers that will kill you instantly if you try to move through them. To begin the encounter, you set your ghost down near the generator that's keeping the laser grid online. He begins to try and hack his way through the system to shut down the grid, only for you to encounter your first wave of enemies. This would be the first of many place ghost down and defend against 3 or more waves of enemies encounters that would be notoriously littered all throughout Destiny's first set of strikes. Not the best way to keep your players interested over time, but it is worth mentioning that the mechanics for future Destiny dungeons do improve as the game evolves. A slew of captains, vandals, and dregs all converge on your position as you try and defend yourself from the oncoming fire. It's important to try and keep your distance from the captains, as they do have a tendency to rush towards you and attack with their shock blades if you let them get too close, as well as try to line of sight the vandals as their wire rifles pack a mean punch, especially if in large numbers. Try to deal with them first. Your ghost mentions that the Fallen seem to be getting smarter, and before you can continue his sentence, an alarm activates, sending the second wave and more Fallen onto your current position. The music begins to amp up, as this time, stealth wire rifle vandals enter from the far back sides of the room. Dealing with them is a main priority. Not only that, but stealth close quarters combat vandals may sneak in for a closer hit with their shock blades. Quickly defeating those enemies ends the second wave, but Ghost is quick to mention that there are more Fallen and Hive on the way. Steel yourself for more combat. Thralls, Acolytes, and a Hive wizard spill out of the leftmost side of the room for what seems to be a hole leading into a cave system where there may be another Hive seeder yet to be seen or discovered. But you don't have time to worry about that. What matters is the fight happening here and now. It's imperative that you continue to maintain use of cover and target acquisition during this fight, or else you'll be at the risk of fighting 2 sets of enemies at once, and risking critical damage to yourself, or even death. Falling back to the side of the room with the generator lets you see the madness that goes down between 2 sets of warring factions and a group of guardians. More wizards and captains, vandals and acolytes converge on your position. As you deal with them quickly though, you notice a buffer phase of Fallen Shanks spill out of both sides of the room, signifying that more enemies are on the way. And they are. Stealth vandals with shock blades enter the far side of the room, and more vandals and dregs are placed at the back end of the room. You make quick work of them. Finally, the encounter boss, Naxxus Devil Baron, shows his face. He's much stronger than most captains, and has arc shielding and a large shrapnel launcher equipped. But with super abilities managed correctly, you make quick work of the Baron. Your ghost lets you know that the laser grid has been deactivated, and it's safe to proceed. As you begin to delve into the now derelict refinery, it becomes very apparent that Bungie has put a lot of effort into the designs of the Cosmodrome's interiors and aesthetics of the world of Destiny, especially in the rusted and decrepitness of it all. Giant holes in ceilings, abandoned vehicles everywhere, and overgrowth of flora in almost every aspect. These details show what could have been a place where people came to work every day, now lost to time in the snow and metal. After making your way through another group of Fallen guarding the exit to the refinery, you make your way into the Blast, a large open combat arena that will see good use in the coming moments. Ghost lets you know that the Devils Lair is just up ahead and right under the colony ship that is looming over the surrounding area. But before you can do anything, a Fallen skiff drops off a giant spider walker who is guarding the door. This starts the second encounter. The Devil Walker's main attacks consist of its forward repeaters and its main cannon. Its main cannon telegraphs its attack very slowly, but still packs a big punch, while its repeater sends volleys of quick but dodgeable energy blasts, as well as mine dispensers, an onboard shank foundry, and a seismic slam for enemies that decide to get too close. It does have a weakness though. While they are armor-plated, the Devil Walker's legs are its weakest points. Destroying one should open up the core of the Spider Walker placed just above the neck, allowing you and your fire team to do massive damage. As the encounter starts, enemies will be positioned around and slightly farther away from the Spider Walker, with a wire rifle vandal placed in a busted down building to the far right. As a strategy, you should quickly disperse of any Fallen in your current path and head towards either the left or the right side of the arena closest to the Walker. Both have considerable cover, but the side with the most would be the right side, being inside the building where the previously named wire rifle vandal was. If you happen to have range in your arsenal, setting up shop at the back of the arena on top of or inside the main building in the middle should be a smart spot for sniping at a distance, as it does provide some cover from the Walker's onslaught. Do be careful though. Enemies in that building tend to spawn and spawn quickly, and will likely try to jump up on top of the building or come around and flank your position from within. The contrast of the previous encounter laid in the cramped and claustrophobic refinery and the current encounter taking place in a large, wide-open space lends itself well to show the dynamics and differences in combat and pacing between indoor and outdoor skirmishes in Destiny's sandbox. On the one hand, the pace of combat in the refinery was quick and hectic, while on the other, the pace of combat in an open area such as the blast gives the players time, space, and cover to realize what their next move should be. Once you find a pattern within the spawning enemies and the attacks of the walker, it shouldn't take long for you and your fire team to bring it down, ending the second encounter. As your team moves towards the main entrance, you clear out what's left of the fallen guarding the other side of the door, and head on through towards the Devil's Lair. Entering the facility, you're greeted with walls adorned with the banners of the aforementioned house, as well as a floor covered in hundreds of thousands of human bones and remains, and pikes with skulls adorned atop them. You truly are in the presence of devils. The doors open, and you're greeted with fallen vandals and dregs alike, praying to Sepix Prime, to this machine god servitor, asking for strength. That's not gonna happen. You kill the fallen kneeling around Sepix, and the servitor whirs to life. The music kicks in, and the third and final encounter begins. The fight between your fire team and Sepix Prime is not a very difficult one, but if you're not careful, it can turn ugly real fast. In his first phase, Sepix will stay relatively close to where he is awakened, and fire at your fire team with his Null Blast. Getting too close will put you in danger of his close-range energy discharge attack that will drain your health drastically if you're not too careful. After taking a few hits, he will use a short-range teleport to move further out to either the left, right, or back of the arena. At this moment in time, he will continue to pepper your fire team with his Null Blast, as well as call for reinforcements to aid him. Shanks, dregs, and vandals will come pouring out of the backs and sides of the arena, coming to the aid of their god servitor, as well as the occasional fallen skiff, dropping off reinforcements and laying down suppressing fire on you and your fire team. Using the inner workings of the facility as cover from Sepix's onslaught will help greatly in favor of your fire team, including making it much easier for your team to dispatch of his followers with. Sepix, like all enemies in Destiny, also has a weak point, the dead center of his frame. Continue to pepper that weak point whilst dodging enemies and his attacks and teleports, and the fight between your fire team and the fallen servitor should be over in no time. After defeating the Prime Servitor, Commander Zavala congratulates you on your successful operation, and with it, lending a hand to the city and all those in need. Mentioning that even though the House of Devils will grow weaker after this day, they are fallen, and will find ways to survive the coming battles. They always do. The placement for the fight between you and Sepix Prime being right in the launch facility of a derelict colony ship really lends to the sense of progression throughout your first few levels in Destiny. Starting out in the Cosmodrome, you see across the skyline dozens of colony ships waiting in stillness in the far-off distance. It would only be fitting for your final fight in the Cosmo to be placed smack dab in the middle of a colony ship's launch facility, signifying not only your progress as a Guardian throughout the area, but of how far you've come as a player. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more content like this, go ahead and leave a comment down below letting me know, or if there's a specific dungeon in Destiny you want me to cover, go ahead and post that down in the comments too. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.